My name is Michel Paul Richard, and I'm going to talk a little bit about my sculpting career, which is actually my second career. And I think it began when I used to visit my grandmother, my Swedish grandmother in Chicago. We lived in New York. And in the summer, I would go there with my mother. And she always gave me a bar of ivory soap and told me to carve either an elephant or a donkey, because we had members of both parties in the family. And I always did that, and I remember that. When I was 15, I went to the University of Chicago, and there were other 15-year-olds there at the time. But one of my friends was an Army veteran, an Air Force veteran, who was twice my age. He was like an older brother. And his name was George Hobby. And he was unique because he was a bodybuilder but also a dancer. And his partner was June Fox, who was also a student. And Life magazine decided to do a special on Acro Theater, which was the name of the organization, an early forerunner of Cirque du Soleil. So this photo was taken around 1948 by Life magazine. Can you see it? Okay. And that's what I used. But I didn't do it until many, many years later. I always wanted to do it since I was 17, but at 17 I didn't have the time or the money or the talent to do it. And this, as you'll see, was done in Bondo, which is the only material suitable for a sculpture like this, because of the stresses on various points, the ankles, the wrists. Nothing else would work. I tried other things. Bondo was not invented until 1955, so that's another reason why I couldn't do it then. In 1955, I was in the Army on the rifle range and also trying not to panic in the gas chamber, and the sculpture was the furthest thing from my mind. So it was many years later. In fact, it was just 2 years ago that I started this piece. A little more of the background information. 3 years before I retired from SUNY, I became seriously interested in sculpture and took classes in bronze casting and welding with Professor Wayne Williams in Canandaigua, New York. So that's how I got my start. After retirement, well, I should say that the sculpting began seriously 3 years before my retirement. After retirement, Peggy and I moved to Miami, Florida, and I sold some of my other pieces through Kennedy Galleries in Key West. I also taught a class in cement sculpture at the Jewish Community Center in North Miami Beach. And one thing that I remember very distinctly is the fact that I had to go into the hospital for lung surgery in the middle of my class, during which several people dropped out but one person who stayed was the son of a man who owned an art supplies shop in Miami, and he was a sales clerk. And when he told his father that he was going to take a sculpture class, his father said, "Why? You don't have any talent, and besides, I need you in the store." He said, "I'm going to take it anyway." So he was one of the few who came back after my week in the hospital getting lung surgery. And he completed his piece, took it home, showed his father, and his father said, "You didn't make that, your instructor made that." And that was one of the happiest days of my life, because I had validated this guy. He had demonstrated that his father sold him short, and I felt very, very proud of that student. I did sell some pieces. One was sold, called Minoan Games, to Victoria Jackson of Saturday Night Live fame, and also Johnny Carson. She was the daughter of a friend of mine from University of Chicago who had moved to South Florida many years earlier. So occasionally there was a sale, but there were also thefts and losses and gifts, and so I still have quite a collection of sculpture and also paintings at my my home in New Marlborough. After we moved to the Berkshires in 2003, Peggy and I taught sculpture classes in terracotta at the Jewish Federation, Knesset Israel in Pittsfield. And after we moved to New Marlborough, I got interested in the work of W.E.B. Du Bois, who was also a sociologist like me, and who was Great Barrington's native son. So everything is connected, it seems, in one way or another. Also, I should mention something very strange. Shortly after we moved to the Berkshires, I was included in a show, a juried show in New Marlborough in the art gallery. And one of the pieces that I had on display was a marble bust called Janus. It had two faces, and both were inspired by the film 2001: A Space Odyssey. The interesting thing is that the wife of Doug Trumbull did all the special effects on those science fiction films like the Andromeda Strain, 2001: Space Odyssey, and others. And his wife bought that particular piece as an anniversary present for Doug. And this was 50 years after the movie and after I made the piece. So that doesn't seem like chance. It's more like serendipity. The most recent piece I made before the one that I'm going to show today was a bronze bust of W.E.B. Du Bois. Ed Ivas, who has his own plane and who's in my senior fitness group, flew me to the Green Foundry in Elliott, Maine, to have this thing cast. And my neighbor, Eric Callahan, who took these pictures, drove me to and back to pick up the finished piece. So this is the bronze bust, which I haven't sold yet. If I don't sell it, I'll probably donate it to the Mason Library or the church that's being restored that used to be the church the Du Bois went to. So in my publicity, I wrote that sociology was my profession, sculpture is my passion. And I'm about to show you my latest piece, which I think will be my last piece. I promised Peggy I won't do any more sculpture like this. It's too hard on the body. I wound up in the emergency room with back spasms a couple of weeks ago. And it's all for art. And when people ask me, what does it take to become a sculptor, I say that it helps to have an obsessive compulsive personality complex. That may not be sufficient, but it helps. So that's it. And now the piece, which was supposed to be finished long ago, but for several reasons was not. But it's close. It's in what they call an advanced stage of penultimacy. You got the angle? You got the angle that you want, right? It's good? Okay. So it's actually two pieces. And I learned a lot by doing this. I learned about stresses and tensile strength and so on. This wrist broke more than once. I had to put steel rods in it. And everything at one time or another either broke or had to be sawed off and redone. And this is pretty close to being finished, but obviously it's not finished. Now, June Fox comes off like this. So you can see that it was quite an engineering problem to get this wrist, this hand, and the lower back articulated in a way that was both safe and also aesthetic. Detail work still needs to be done on both figures, but this is the basic form, which is not going to change. One thing that I did differently in the photograph, June Fox has loose hair, which I don't like. It seems to me to be dangerous, and so I put a ponytail on the female figure instead of a big wad of loose hair. And that's about it. So I thank you for the opportunity of showing my work, and we hope you'll come to one of the art shows in New Marlborough, which is where I've currently been displaying. Thank you very much.